Hey, glad you are here. In the last video I showed you the code-first approach to API design. Hopefully you have a feel for how it works in practice. This video is linked again below. In this video I want to classify the code-first approach to API design from a developer's perspective. When is it a good choice and when might it not be? So a quick recap. Code first means that we design our API directly in the code. REST resources, endpoints, Java classes and the API's data model are created first. This feels very efficient, especially at the beginning. A clear advantage here is a quick start. Indeed, you don't have to write a separate specification or engage in lengthy coordination, but can get started right away and see results. After all, the API itself is created directly with its executability. This is extremely tempting, especially in small projects that are still in their infancy or in the development of prototypes. So, advantage number one, quick results. Another advantage is a close coupling to the implementation. Everything is in one place: models, validation, the logic, and the endpoints. This also saves time initially and reduces duplication of work, as we don't have to write a specification first and then follow up with the implementation. So advantage number two, everything in one place. Thanks to modern frameworks, we often automatically get a formal correct specification of what we have specified. The de facto standard for this is called OpenAPI. A video about OpenAPI and how to work with it will be available soon here on my YouTube channel. Let me illustrate this aspect again with an example. I'll use my mini Quarkus application with the 3 endpoints from the last video again. You can find the source code in the GitHub repository linked in the description. With Quarkus, generating an API specification is very easy, as there is a corresponding extension called small_y OpenAPI that does everything for us. I add this extension to the project by copying this Maven command. Then I can start the application in dev mode with the Quarkus Maven plugin. If you are interested in Quarkus, I can recommend my Udemy course on it. You can find the link in the description. I'll also be posting more videos on Quarkus here on YouTube. So in the application I can go to the dev UI via localhost on port 8080 and then see a title for this extension here. Here I can view the API specification in an interactive UI. You may know this UI under the name Swagger UI. However, the machine-readable form as YAML or JSON is certainly more relevant for passing on the API. However you do it, you end up with a formally correct API specification that you can distribute to the customers of the API. Let's note advantage number 3. API specification can usually be easily generated from the source code. So far, this all sounds pretty good. The only problem is that these advantages are mainly short-term. Let's now look at the disadvantages, and in my opinion, these weigh much more heavily. The first obvious disadvantage is the lack of the explicit API design. What do I mean with that? With the code-first approach, the API is created incidentally while we are implementing. The design of the API follows the code structure, not a conscious technical modeling. This often leads to endpoints being inconsistent, resources being named technically, which may not be suitable for consumers of the API, and technical concepts not being clearly recognizable in the API. In short, the API explains the code, not the domain. This is what the API actually does. A second, very critical point is changes in the code. Because the API and implementation are so closely linked, even small refactorings often have a direct impact on the interface. A renamed field, a new validation rule, or a restructured class that maps the API model, as in our user example, such a change can quickly lead to breaking changes, sometimes even unnoticed. This becomes particularly problematic when there are multiple clients for this API or when external users depend on the API. And that brings us to perhaps the most important and critical disadvantage: the lack of focus on API consumers. With the code-first approach, we think primarily like backend developers. We optimize the API for our implementation, not for readability, comprehensibility, or stability from the user's perspective. Questions such as: is the API intuitive? Is it stable in the long term? Can someone without coding knowledge understand the model? Are often asked too late or not at all. This is a real risk, especially with larger, public, or long-lived APIs, and everyone should ask themselves honestly whether they want to take this risk. The API represents a contract between its provider and its consumers, and code-first often makes this contract unplanned, unstable, difficult to maintain, and foremost, likely not agreed with the users. My conclusion from a developer's perspective is therefore: code-first is convenient, fast, and pragmatic for starting a project and for rapid prototyping, but the more important the API become, the more its structural weaknesses become apparent. For me, this does not mean that code first is fundamentally wrong, but you should make a very conscious decision about when and where to use it. So thank you for watching, and would be delighted if you subscribe to my channel and gave me a thumbs up if you like my content. See you next time!